Story.
Tell me your story.
How did it all start? Do you remember?
Oh, now what happened? How did it stop?
This is Small Business Origins.
Yeah, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Small Business Origins. You're tuned in to our nationwide search for entrepreneurs that have a story to tell. And joining us virtually in the studio is an entrepreneur that wants to do just that. All the way from Longmont, Colorado, we have Natalie Clays with Allen Carr's EasyWay. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me. Good to be here.
It is a pleasure of ours as always. Now, you're currently in Colorado, but the company's based both here and in the UK where it was founded. And I think you said you actually run like 4 different countries under your franchise?
Yeah, well, we're actually in about 50 countries globally. So it began in London in the UK. We're now in about 50 countries, but I personally look after the USA, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So pretty busy.
Yeah, see, I added whenever we rebranded and became Small Business Origins, I added in that nationwide search where we were really trying to go outside of just Tomball, Texas, where we're from, or Houston, and get in touch with entrepreneurs from across the country. But I've been telling people these past few episodes is like we're going worldwide because we're having companies that are based in Canada, Australia, and then now with you being, the parent company being located in 50 different countries. It is insane the reach that we have. And I'm so excited every single week to talk to another entrepreneur that's from a different part of our country or a different part of the world. The stories are amazing, and that's what we're all about here. But before we hop into that stuff, we start out every single episode with an icebreaker question. So today's icebreaker question is, if you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you want to be?
Oh, goodness me. I wasn't even prepared for this. I know. Oh, goodness me. Where would I be right now? Completely unprepared. Oh, sorry.
I'll tell you, I can hop in here and tell you that right now with the cold wind, rain, and nasty weather that we're having here in Texas, honestly, I'd rather be anywhere else because I hate the cold. So I'm not a fan of the cold. Now, I like it cold. Don't get me wrong. But I'm talking 50s or 60s, no wind, the sun's out. Like I'm that prima donna cold. I like it where I can put a nice little light hoodie on and feel comfortable no matter where I'm at. But right now, because we've been dealing with the cold for so long, because we're in our winter months, I would love to be somewhere that's tropical, has nice warm weather. My wife looked up on the weather app yesterday. Cancun was like 84 and sunny. And that sounds like the place I want to be. Beachside, poolside, doing anything else but living through the cold and rain that we have. I don't mind the cold. I just don't like it when it's accompanied by the nasty rain and weather that we're having. And I'll tell you, Fort Worth, Dallas, I know we were talking pre-show. You said you had a trip planned there this weekend, and for our listeners, I mean, right now it's February 1st. So we're recording in February. So I don't want people to think like, man, they're in Houston and it's nice weather right now when they're listening to this later. No, we are in the middle of that February funk that we had, and it's gross. And I just want to be by a beach or by a pool.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I actually moved here from Australia and I was in Sydney, and we didn't have winter in Sydney. It doesn't exist. And I've actually chosen to come from, beachside warm weather to the cold and snowy Colorado. So I'm kind of very happy to be here right now. I look out the window and it's actually sunny. So it's bitingly cold, but it's blue skies, sunshine, snow on the mountain. So I'm pretty happy being here right now, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a recent decision you've made. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have not been to Colorado. I have seen photos.
Oh.
I know people who have been based in Colorado that I've worked with, people who are friends of mine that have visited or been based there or lived there. And it looks beautiful, amazing. I absolutely want to go endure the cold on a day you're having like now where you've got snow and it's chilly and those beautiful mountains are behind you, that kind of stuff. I just don't want to be here in the crappy rain and weather. That's my big thing.
Well, I mean, I got to say, when it's blowing a blizzard out there, or it's snowing sideways and it's windy, I'm inclined to stay home. But when it's blue skies, sunny, snowy, it's pretty stunning, pretty fabulous.
Absolutely. Well, we're here to talk about you, where you came from, and how you got into entrepreneurship and what you're doing with Allen Carr's EasyWay. So let's hop into the personal stuff. What's your origin story?
Gosh, okay, thank you for asking. Well, Allen Carr's EasyWay it's a method of stopping smoking and drinking alcohol. And I started out I was a smoker. I was a smoker, started at 15 years old, did it for 20 years, got very good at it. But like every smoker, always had that plan to stop doing it and had repeated attempts, failed every time. A day and a half was about my best effort. And so I tried for years and years and years to stop smoking. And just, as, I kind of felt I was a fairly sort of strong, confident person, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I struggled enormously. I tried all the usual methods. I tried the patches, the gum, the sprays, the hypnotherapy, you name it, I did it. And then I heard about a guy called Allen Carr. And so at the time I was living in Sydney, Australia, and I heard about this method called Allen Carr's EasyWay, which in itself I thought is ludicrous. But, I had tried, at this point I was 35 and I'd smoked for 20 years. I'd tried every method imaginable to stop. And I don't know, I just thought, look, I'm willing to give it a go. It sounds ridiculous, but, I'll try anything. I'll do anything. And I attended a seminar. It was 5-6 hour seminar, smoked all the way through. Yeah, you had smoke breaks. And by the end of it, you smoke your final cigarette. And I walked away kind of thinking, and it was just a lot of talking, but not the scary stuff that I'd heard before, but it was challenging what we think we know about smoking and really kind of changing how you think about it. Anyway, I walked away that day, 21st of June, 2003. To be honest, John, between you and me and any of the listeners, I didn't think it would work. I went there with the best, of course. Why would it? Nothing else had worked. Everything else had been a disaster. Why was this any different? But I was kind of at my wit's end and was willing to be open about it and give it a go. I left that day and still really not sure, no big epiphany, no revelation, no hallelujah, just kind of, we'll see how we go. We'll see what happens. And then nothing happened. I just didn't smoke. I didn't smoke. I just had no urge or desire or no reason to smoke. So it kind of like worked without me even really understanding why it had worked. I mean, obviously I know that now, many years later, but at the time it was the information they gave me just took away any reason to smoke. So it didn't focus on why I shouldn't, because I knew that. Every smoker knows that. But all the reasons and excuses that I'd clung on to continue doing it kind of crushed them all. And you're left with absolutely no reason to want to smoke. And it truly, hand on heart, was easy. It was stupidly easy. And I went home, carried on with my life as normal, just not interested in smoking. It was done. And even though at the time, quite a few of my friends were still smokers and I'd still hang out with them and I'd still have a drink with them, but I just wasn't bothered. I wasn't interested. And I think it probably took a few months for it to really sink in, like, goodness, it was so easy. It was so easy. And I think a few months later, I just thought, gosh, I could do this. Like, this is something I would love to get involved in. And that was that. I contacted our head office in London. I said, how can I help? How can I spread the word? How can I help other people experience what I've just had? And a few months later, I'd bought myself a franchise and I'd set up it took me probably like a year or so to train, but then I started running seminars in Sydney in Australia, and that then expanded to other cities in Australia. Then it became the whole of Australia. Then it became New Zealand. And then another story further down the track is me coming to America. So, I don't know if you remember that Victor Kiam advert, liked it so much I bought the company. It was a bit like that. Yeah. I was so blown away by how easy it was. I wanted to get involved. And that was, I joined the company in December 2004. I ran my first seminar in the 2005. Now it's, 1st of Feb 23, and I'm still there. So I feel very, very blessed, privileged, honored, and still excited as day one,
Yeah, I think this is something, going to what you touched on, I think this is something that people who don't smoke or drink they
Yeah.
kind of struggle to understand that it's almost like we've trained ourselves, and I guess neurologically we really have, to be dependent on these things. And at some point in time when you're there, you can tell us every single logical thing that makes sense as to why we shouldn't drink, why we shouldn't smoke, whatever the case may be. And it's truth. Like, everything you're saying is absolutely truth. Like, we know we have had enough money spent on advertising against tobacco companies to know every single risk of smoking, and every single, not even a risk, but everything that smoking causes. Yet when you tell them, hey, this is bad, you need to quit because of this or quit because of that, all it does is drive them to want to have another cigarette or drive them to want to have another drink.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that the normal ways of, hey, that's bad, stop doing it, doesn't work, both on the principle, I think, of being addicted, as well as going to the principles of, like, Games People Play by Dr. Eric Byrne, where it's adult, parent, and child. And it's like, you're trying to be a parent to me by giving me these things that I already know. And it's almost out of spite, which is childlike, that I'm going to say, well, I know that you're right, but you're trying to tell me as a parent, so now I'm going to be a child and do it anyway.
It's addiction, pure and simple drug addiction. And you're absolutely spot on. The messages that tell people smokers are not idiots. I wasn't stupid. I knew the bad stuff,
Right.
but it didn't take away this compulsion to want to do it. And that's addiction. The very nature of addiction is it denies any choice. So none of us are doing it out of choice. We're doing it because we're addicted to this drug. But the messages telling you how bad it is, they have the opposite effect. You ask anybody out there listening, the first thing when people tell you how bad it is and try and scare you into stopping, first thing you do, you reach for a smoke or a vape, or it has the opposite effect, because they're trying to scare us into stopping, and that makes you feel worried, anxious, stressed. First thing you do as a smoker or a vapor, when you feel worried, anxious, stressed, reach for a smoke, reach for a vape. So the typical messages sent out by society about using scare tactics have the opposite effect.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that's the craziest thing that I learned in my marketing class, was that the Surgeon General's warning on cigarettes that we have here in America actually entices the same part of the brain that smoking a cigarette does. So quite literally, what you're saying is 100% factual on an MRI-based study that says when you just see those warnings, that enough is right there triggering that part of your brain that says, oh yeah, cigarettes, man, I love the nicotine, I love that hit. And then you get that feeling, and then it just makes you want to buy it more. I mean, exactly what you're saying is true, that it literally, the scare tactic that's supposed to steer you away from it steers you right to it and makes you want it, because those pleasure sensors in our brain light up under an MRI and say, oh yeah, cigarettes, love them, let me get them.
Yeah, and those scare tactics create, they also create anxiety. So subconsciously they create anxiety. And if you're a smoker, you feel anxious, you believe a cigarette's going to help with your anxiety, and that's what you reach for. I mean, the truth is it doesn't help with anxiety; it causes anxiety. But smokers,
Sure.
we as smokers, we don't know that. We believe it helps us. So those campaigns using scare tactics and horrible graphic images have the opposite effect. It's heartbreaking to see, but addiction is an insidious problem. And I guess the beauty of Allen Carr's method is it doesn't bang on about the bad stuff that we already know. It kind of says, well, hang on a minute, what's the good stuff? What's this good stuff, and is it really good stuff? And it kind of breaks it down, and you're left with no reason to smoke. So none of it's about scare tactics or fear. It's about, well, what's this perceived good stuff? Let's break it down. Let's look at it a bit closer. And is it really, as good as it's cracked up to be? But at the end of it, you're just left with, you've had every argument taken away, every reason to smoke removed, every excuse that we cling on to as addicts crushed, and you're left with nothing. You're left with, there's just no reason to smoke anymore. There's no reason to. And that's when it becomes easy. So it really is a psychological, I think, another thing out there in the industry that makes it difficult for people to grasp is that most methods focus on the physical addiction to the drug nicotine. Well, that part's only 1%. This addiction is 99% psychological, 1% physical. So you can stick a patch on your arm, you can pop a pill, you can take a lozenge or a gum or a spray or a vape, but they all only address the physical addiction to the drug. So they're trying to target like 1% of the problem. That's why they don't work. You've got to target the 99% of the problem, which is this headspace, this belief that I enjoy it, this belief it relaxes me, this belief it relieves stress, this belief it's my friend. And so that's the big problem to sort of address is recognizing it's a psychological addiction, and you have to change that and see it from a different perspective to really kind of to get free of it.
Yeah, I can tell you, I'm not speaking from experience on the smoker side. I've never been a smoker per se. I am one that occasionally while I was drinking, I may have lit a cigarette and smoked one. But I've probably had less than a pack of cigarettes in my entire life. Now, cigars, on the other hand, I do love a good glass of whiskey and a cigar, and I know that is probably sacrilege to say on this podcast episode. But occasionally I'll smoke a cigar, but I don't consider myself addicted to, cigarettes or cigars. I mean, all of my experience with addiction comes from my mother, who, like you, at 12 years old, started smoking. And like you, was extremely good at it. And I'm talking at least 2, usually 3 packs per day. And she was on, Pall Malls and Merit 100s before they kind of got too expensive for her to be able to afford. And I was just always surrounded by the secondhand smoke. So honestly, cigarettes were a huge turnoff for me. I didn't like them because I hated the secondhand smoke. So I never wanted to take part in it. But I watched her struggle, and I watched her use the patches. I watched her use, before vapes were a big thing, it was true e-cigarettes, which were USB powered. They looked like cigarettes. They plugged into your computer and charged. And then, they would just be like a single use disposable type thing that tasted like a cigarette and gave you that nicotine hit. And then you would put it down. I bought one of those out of desperation, trying to get her to stop smoking, because eventually what I knew was going to happen occurred. And she got diagnosed with emphysema, COPD. And then what wound up actually killing her was the double pneumonia she had, along with the COPD and emphysema. So her lungs were already trashed. And then on top of that, she had double pneumonia because she would get pneumonia all the time from smoking. And it was just, that was the truth. No matter how much I begged and pleaded and griped as her child, wanting her to stop, it just would never stop, even with all these other things. And that is one thing I loved about looking at your website prior to you coming on the show, was nothing on there said smoking is bad, it's going to kill you, you need to stop, or anything else. It said, we're here to help you with these addictions, and we have an easier way for you to do it. And then mentioned, like I said earlier, it's brain power, not willpower. So I will say it's kind of vague for me to understand exactly what you do. So I definitely want you to break that down for me, if you don't mind. But it does seem like it's from more of a positive end of the spectrum, which I think would, in theory, have a better reaction from that. And then obviously you've been through it, so you already know it's not a theory. For you, it's a truth. That attacking it from this positive perspective really helps. So what do I expect that first day that I'm where you were? I walk in and I say, I've got this addiction, I want to get rid of it. What do I expect when I show up for this seminar?
Okay. Gosh. Well, firstly, I'm so sorry to hear about your mum. I mean, it breaks my heart to see people go too early through this horrible addiction. Okay, Allen Carr's method. It's always a difficult one to explain because it is so very, very different. This fear and anxiety that smokers have is kind of driven by smoking. So non-smokers don't have it. It's caused by smoking, not relieved by it. So when I walked into that seminar, and I now run the seminars. I've been doing the seminars myself as a coach or teacher for let's say 15 years, or maybe could even be 17. I lose track. Everybody walks in that room pretty terrified. You know what? They think they're giving up their friend. They think they're giving up their pleasure, their crutch, their prop, their reward, this thing they believe they can't function or cope without. And so what we do it's roughly about 6 hours, which goes really quickly. we talk about smoking. So at no point do we talk about the bad stuff. There's no horrible images because every smoker has seen it. And like your mum and like me, we don't want to know. Not interested. We're going to close our minds to that because we're not idiots. We know the bad stuff. So that's gone. We're not talking bad stuff. We're going to talk about what's this good stuff. And I'll give you an example. The perceived good stuff about smoking is that it relaxes me. It relieves stress, helps me concentrate, relieves boredom. I enjoy it with a drink. It's time out. It's a break. It's social. It's habit. All these different reasons that smokers give to justify or rationalize the addiction. And what we do is we break those down and we actually prove that smoking does the opposite. It creates stress. It creates anxiety. It prevents you from being able to concentrate because you're so distracted in withdrawal. And so the reality of smoking is what the manufacturers in the industry claim it does, the opposite is the truth. It actually creates stress, anxiety, boredom, can't concentrate, feel uncomfortable, feel empty, feel insecure. So this takes us 6 hours to get through this, by the way, but what you're, in a nutshell, what you're basically saying is you smoke to feel like a non-smoker. You smoke to relieve the discomfort and aggravation of being in withdrawal. So if you think about a flat line that's normal, when you go into withdrawal from nicotine, you go below normal. So if you're normal, let's say your normal is 100%, when you withdraw from the drug nicotine, you go below 100%, and which non-smokers don't have. When you light up a cigarette and you top up the drug levels of nicotine and you get that boost back to normal again, well, you're already back to normal, but as a smoker, we call that pleasure, satisfaction, relief, enjoyment, stress relief. So what we're really saying is you make yourself uncomfortable in withdrawal, then to relieve the discomfort to try and feel like a normal non-smoker again. So all the bad stuff that we get is real and all the good stuff doesn't exist. Now, of course, that's me telling you it in 30 seconds. In reality, It takes 6 hours to be a lot more convincing than that. But it's really about exposing the truth. It's about seeing smoking or vaping or any drug as a confidence trick. We're led to believe that there's all this, these positives to it, and what we're really saying is they don't exist. It's BS. It's a scam. It's a confidence trick that we got conned with. And what Allen Carr's method is doing is actually showing you the truth about it, so you see it differently. You realise you've been mugged, you've been had, and you're left with why would I want to do that? So what it does is there's no sense of giving up. So if you stick a patch on your arm, you still believe you're giving something up. So you're then stopping, not because you want to, because you feel you should. This is seeing smoking from a different perspective, or vaping or alcohol from a different perspective, so that you actually have no desire to want to do it because you realize there's just no point, and that it was something of a scam, a confidence trick. I said it takes 6 hours to really explain it thoroughly, but it's fascinating stuff. Like I said, there's not once do we talk about, the bad stuff, but we're really showing you that the good stuff doesn't exist, and that you're spending your money and ruining your life and being slavery. You're a slave to a drug, but you get nothing in return. So there really is nothing to give up, and you're basically just trying to get back to the normal that you were when you were a non-smoker. Does that kind of?
Is this Yeah, no, absolutely. It just opens up so many questions in my mind. Is this a one-time thing where I come to this seminar, or is this a program that extends a certain period of time, or is it a lifetime deal?
Yeah, good question. So it starts with the very first session, which is about 6 hours, and that's with a facilitator, someone like myself. Oh, every one of us was a client. There's nobody can do this job unless you've been there with your smoker's hat on. You cannot possibly relate to it or understand. So we were all smokers ourselves. We all stopped this way. First seminar, 6 hours. You smoke all the way through. You have your final cigarette. You leave. Most people arrive feeling petrified, and most people leave looking seriously happy, relieved, excited. It's just so, I said, it's positive, inspiring, uplifting. You leave as a non-smoker. For the majority of people, that's it, you're done. But some people need more than one session. So we offer free support sessions, and we offer a money-back guarantee. I think we're the only people who do that, and we do it because we're that confident. And the way the guarantee, So session number 1 is 6 hours. Session number 2, if you need it, is about 3 hours. Session number 3, about 3 hours. If you do the full program of all 3 different sessions in 3 months and you still choose to smoke or vape or drink alcohol, we give you your money back. We've had that offer in play. The company started in 1983, and we've had that money back guarantee from the very beginning. And if it didn't work, we couldn't afford to do that. So that's how. The reason we do it, John, it's not really about. It's so that people will try it and know that it's risk-free, thinking, well, I've got nothing to lose by giving it a go and hearing what they have to say, because the worst that happens is I waste some time, I get my money back. And that's really why Alan started it. Wasn't so much about getting a refund, it's about saying you've got nothing to lose by coming and hearing what we have to say. Over the years, I've had clients who've come, who've categorically said, I do not want to stop smoking. I love it. I don't want to stop. And I say, well, why are you here? Well, my husband booked me in, but I don't want to be here. And I give them the opportunity to leave and say, we'll refund you if you want to go. And they say, no, I'll stay and see what it's about. And then 6 hours later, they've heard stuff they hadn't even considered or thought about. And they've had such a shift or such a change in their thinking, their perception, so it's kind of like they don't know what they don't know. So they think they love smoking, they think they enjoy smoking, they think it has all these upsides, but 6 hours later, when they've actually heard it from a very different perspective, it's like, wow, I just didn't see it that way. So you almost have to you've got to get people in the room in the first place to even be open to hearing what you're going to say. And that's the money back guarantee kind of encourages people to give it a go, even no matter how skeptical they are, no matter how much they say, well, I'm not really ready, it's not the right time, I love it. We say, just come and hear what we have to say.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you started that way of walking in thinking, this isn't going to work. I'm just here going through the motions so that I can say that I've tried. And then as soon as I'm done, I'm going to get out of here and smoke another one on the way home.
Yeah,
and then not to have that happen.
Yeah. Look, I didn't go there thinking I want my money back, but I went there skeptical and very doubtful that it would work. I didn't think it would work. Because nothing else had. And every previous attempt had been horrendous, had been awful. And I went there highly doubtful, really not expecting it to work. So this is the last job on the planet I thought I'd ever be doing. I really had it's crazy, but I sat there for 6 hours and I listened and I smoked all the way through till the very, very last drop. I carried on smoking. And when I was done, it's just like you just couldn't quite bring yourself to smoke anymore. Like I'd think about it, think, shall I have one? It's like, yeah, no, I don't think so. And you just couldn't bring yourself to want to smoke anymore afterwards. So, but yeah, I was very skeptical and I wouldn't say suspicious, because I did actually have a friend who'd done it and she was raving about it, but I didn't believe it would work. And I think I also thought, well, even if it does work, it won't be forever. It'll just be for, to like basically go out with my friends and get on the beers and then it'll be all, over. And it wasn't. It just wasn't. It just got easier. It got better. My life has changed drastically. It's taken me around the world. I now live in fabulous Colorado. My work has brought me here. So I was one of those very skeptical, doubtful clients who totally didn't think it would work. And best thing I ever did. Life-changing.
So as a potential client, how do I know where the nearest Allen Carr is that I can get in touch with, or are y'all available? What does your clientele look like? Are you available to anyone, anywhere, or where are you located mostly?
So we're available to anybody, everywhere, anybody, whether they smoke, vape, drink alcohol. With the live seminars, we do them in person, but we also do by Zoom. So I've been trying to tick off every US state. So we've had clients in Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, not to mention, the places, well, this weekend I'm in Dallas. So whether it's in the room or by Zoom, you can access it from anywhere, everywhere. So this Saturday, I'm personally going to be in Dallas, but tomorrow we have one by Zoom, this weekend by Zoom. So it's really, all you need really is a laptop, internet, camera, open mind, packet of smokes.
For most things these days, that's definitely the way it's going. Do you feel like there's any difference in the treatment itself as far as being in person or on Zoom? Like, do you think it maybe wouldn't have worked for you if it was remote and you needed to go in person yourself?
No, because when I did the smoking one, it was so long ago, Zoom wasn't even a thing.
Right.
And so I didn't have the option back then. It was the only choice was in person, so I did that. But I've since done the alcohol one by Zoom. I don't drink anymore. It's nearly 3 years. And ask any of my friends, I never, ever, ever thought I would be a non-drinker. So the Zoom alcohol seminar just had the same effect on me. And yeah, it's nearly 3 years. I can honestly, hand on heart, say I don't miss it, that I don't want it. Again, life is so much better without it. So the difference really within the room and Zoom is you get the program's identical. I mean, the only difference is we can hug in the room. I can give you a hug at the end when you're so happy that you want to say thank you with a big hug, and that's the main difference. There's a slightly different energy when you're in the same room, but the results, which is what people want or need, are the same whether it's with me in the room or by Zoom.
So can we discuss pricing at all? How much it costs to attend this?
Yeah. It depends. That does change a little bit by location.
Sure.
Because New York is very expensive to put a seminar on. In New York and Los Angeles, we charge $595 a person, money back guarantee. In the other states at the moment, it's $495 a person, money back guarantee. Zoom's a little bit cheaper at $450, but all those prices include unlimited support sessions for the first 3 months. So if you need one session, it's $450 by Zoom, $495 in the room. If you need 10 sessions in 3 months, it's the same price. The goal is to get you to where you need to get to.
Yeah.
And that includes, that 3-month money back guarantee as well.
So this is kind of like having a life coach, essentially. It's someone who is a little more equipped as far as there's a presentation, there's information, there's methods, that kind of thing. But this is someone who's kind of like maybe an accountability partner for you in the effect that you can go to these classes several times and meet with an unlimited amount of people, depending on who's in that room with you.
Well, everybody tends to go as an individual and not so much worry about what anybody else is doing in that room. We say to them, this is about you, not about the person next to you or anybody else, not about your friends or your partner, just about you. So
got it.
What they have got, though, is then connection to someone like me or one of our other facilitators that they then have unlimited contact with if they need any support at all. So we're here for them if they need to email, to phone, to do a Zoom chat, whatever. And the big difference is, I always use this example of the Biggest Loser. We have it in Australia as well, and I'm pretty sure it was Gillian Michaels over here. I think she's absolutely fantastic, but she's probably never been overweight.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that. I don't know that. But the one we had in Australia called Michelle Bridges, she's never been overweight. So she's telling a bunch of people who've got an eating issue what to do. Now, they know that. The difference with this is every one of us has been a smoker or a vapor or a drinker. So we're not telling you what we think you should do. We're talking about it from our first-hand personal experience from somebody who actually understands how smokers think, understand how drinkers think. So it's that advice or support is so real because every one of us has been there. And in fact, you can't qualify as a facilitator unless you've actually had that addiction yourself and got free of it. We wouldn't actually take anybody on who hadn't been in that place. That's the number one criteria about being involved or presenting is you have to have had the problem and been there. So
that's my personal struggle is with weight, myself. And it's like, I 100% agree with you that it's so hard when I see these personal trainers and these people that are telling you how to lose weight and how to get to where they are. And it's like, but where have you been? If you've always had a fast metabolism and you've always worked out since a young age, wow, the head start you've gotten, it must have been nice. It's like, I want to talk to that guy who's been the weight that I am. I want to talk to that person who is losing that weight, who went through that process, whether they're in the middle of it or at the end of it, and now they feel good, they look good, they're happy, they've gotten down to their goal weight. I want to speak to someone who's been there, because you're right. I can't imagine a smoker or a drinker listening to someone who has never smoked and never drank tell them all of this information and then just take that and go, you know what, this is great. Yeah, they're right. I feel like they would immediately discount them and then walk out the door, have a drink, smoke a cigarette, whatever the case may be, versus listening to someone who says, hey, I've been there. I know exactly what you're going through. I knew that feeling that you're feeling now sitting in class when I walked through the door my very first time. So I think that's very important, that no one in your organization can say, yeah, I've never smoked or drank, but here's the way to do it. This works.
Yeah, it's an absolute, it's a must have. We wouldn't have anybody doing it who hadn't been there. I mean, when I walked in that door, 21st of June 2000, I remember it so clearly, 2003, I can honestly say I was terrified. And I know if there's anybody listening who's a smoker, they can relate to that. I was terrified. I was terrified of life without cigarettes, because it's like, how will I cope? How will I function? I kind of thought I'd be forever deprived and miserable, forever craving it, forever missing out, forever suffering, struggling. So it's just the worst feeling. You go into it, expecting to fail, but thinking, but even if it works, life is going to be so rubbish without my friend. And there's what's that saying, between a rock and a hard place? It's like, well, if I keep on smoking, it's going to kill me. If I stop smoking, I'm going to be so miserable anyway. And Allen Carr's method was kind of like this lifeline of saying, actually, you can stop and it doesn't have to be miserable, and you can be much, much, much happier as a non-smoker and not miss it and not crave it and not feel that you've given anything up, but actually just feel free of a drug that you've been a slave to, that, let's be honest, has controlled your life.
Yeah.
And so I think that was what was so inspiring about it. It was like, I'd never really heard it that way before. Every other approach was about, well, it's going to be really hard, isn't it? And you're probably going to fail and you're going to be so miserable. Who wants to go in for that? This was like, well, actually, guys, it's going to be so easy. You're going to feel great. You're going to be so glad you did this. It's going to be completely life-changing, and you'll never miss it or want it again. How cool is that?
So are y'all on social media at all, like dripping out any knowledge or truth bombs in between the seminars?
Yes, we are. Because I've got 4 countries, I've got 4 sites. But if we're in America, it's on Facebook. We are Allen Carr USA. Our website is, and the spelling's a bit weird, ALLENCARR. So it's Allen Carr USA on Facebook, Allen Carr on Instagram, Allen Carr on Twitter. The website is usa.allencarr.com. So we're out there, and we're posting regularly, and we also send hopefully positive inspiration to our subscribers. So you can, on the website, you can sign up to the mailing list and hear what we have to say and hear how we're sort of talking to see if it feels like the right thing for you.
Perfect. Do y'all offer any type of specials at all ever?
We do, actually. Yeah. In fact, it's funny you say that. I was only talking earlier about we should do a Valentine's special. So let's put it out there now. Let's put it out there for your listeners. Bring your loved one. Let's say bring your loved one half price. Is that a good deal?
Ooh, man, that's a killer deal. I like it. We're definitely going to have to rush this episode out so that we can mention that on there and get that discount for our listeners. I think it's a great thing. I mean, as someone who's lost my mother at an early age because of smoking, it is absolutely something I wish that would have been available to her I mean, it was available to her back then. I wish that she would have known about it and tried it, because she had tried so many things, including being in the hospital for weeks at a time, which you would think would give you a nice enough break that you could, come back out and say, you know what, I don't want to do that again. And I've already been this long without it. Let me just keep going. But the determination to pick up that pack of cigarettes again was always stronger than the willpower to just step away.
Can I just add to that? What you've just said about your mother in hospital totally confirms my point. The addiction is psychological, not physical. Because if she's been in hospital that period of time, there's no nicotine left in the bloodstream. Nicotine's gone. It just totally confirms that when we say it's a mental or a psychological addiction, that proves it. There's no nicotine left in her body at that stage, but she's still craving or desiring a cigarette because of her beliefs around it.
Exactly. Okay. Well, this has been a great interview. I hope that our listeners, if they are struggling with this and this is something they want help with, I'm hoping that they will reach out to you and check out what you have going on, because it does seem like something that it could be so beneficial for somebody in their life right now. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing all this information about Allen Carr, the EasyWay, and your personal experience with it.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved being on the show, and I hope we can help some of your listeners to get free from their addiction issues. Hope to hear from them.
Absolutely. Well, that's it, listeners. Another episode, another week, and another awesome entrepreneur with a great product. I mean, who doesn't want to quit smoking? I think most smokers would probably, if they really thought long and hard about it, would say that they do wish they could just get rid of that habit, and they feel like it's an impossible task. So if you're feeling that way, even if you think that it's not going to work, just like our guest today, walk in, open up your mind, take a listen, see if it works for you, and then hopefully move on with your life without smoking anymore. I appreciate y'all tuning in every single week, listening to these episodes. Please head over to www.smallbusinessorigin.com to find out more about our guest and this company. You can find everything in the show notes, of course, just like every single episode that we release. So please click those links down there, take a look around, see what works for you. But that's it for us. We will see you on the next episode. And as always, stay beefy, my friends.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Small Business Origins.
I love an origin story.
If you like what you just heard, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with a friend.
You guys, check this out.
They're going to love it. You're going to love it.